Hello, my name is Drew Levern. I'm the Wellness Director at the Randolph County YMCA, and today we're going to talk about meal planning. Meal planning is something that many people don't do, but it is something that can be very helpful in order to help you with the cooking process. Also, eating healthier foods a lot of times is a result of meal planning as well. So today we're going to get into the details of some good ways to do meal planning and how to be successful in that process. First step in meal planning is selecting what meals you're going to have that week. So it's important to know what meals you'll be making, so then you can have a plan, so you don't have to think about it so much when you're coming to make dinner in the evening or lunch or whatever meal you're trying to prepare for. A lot of times it's like, oh, I don't know what we're going to make. Do we have the food that we need to be able to make this meal? And then you might end up just eating out. Or like cooking something that's easy, convenient. So if you have a plan in place, then that will help you actually make those meals on those certain days. So selecting those meals and knowing what you're going to have each week is very important in order to be successful with the meal planning process. After you know what meals you're going to make, it's also very helpful to make a grocery list. So once you know the meals, the grocery list will help you make sure you have all the ingredients that you need. Making a list before you go will make sure that you don't forget something. So a lot of times you could be trying to make a dish and you realize, oh man, we don't have any tomatoes and we need tomatoes, or whatever the ingredient happens to be, and that's going to be a problem because especially if you're someone who really likes tomatoes or whatever it is for you in that certain dish, you really need to make sure you have everything. Or there could be something like if it was a pasta dish, you need the pasta. If you don't have the pasta, there's no way you can make that meal. So make sure you have the list ready in hand, and then that will really help you in the meal planning process as well. After making the list, it's very important to stick to the list because it's easy to stray from the list when you're buying groceries because there's so many different options. You might get to the store and like, oh, that looks good, and then you get off of your list. But most of the time, the items that are purchased that are not on your list are less healthy food options. So if you can really stick to your list, you're probably going to eat healthier. Because a lot of times people, when they're planning foods, whether it be the meals or the items that they put on their list, it's usually healthier that way because people have kind of an idea that they want to eat healthy, but it maybe doesn't always happen. But having a plan in place when you plan your meals, what you're going to have, make a list, and if you stick to that list, it's probably going to lead to eating a lot healthier than if you don't plan your meals and you don't have a list, or if you stray from your list. So make sure you stick to that list as much as possible. There's obviously going to be some times where you get something that isn't on the list, or there might be something on your list that they don't have, but if you can stick to the list as best as you can, that will make things a lot healthier the majority of the time. Last step is preparing the food. So you obviously want to make sure that you have all of the cooking utensils like pots and pans, whatever, pressure cooker, Instapot, different things like that you need to make the food. But then you can really help in the meal planning process if you make several meals at one time and put them in food containers. You could make 4 meals or whatever, and you could eat one of them right after you make it, but then you can put the other meals into containers so you'd have them throughout the week, and this will make it easier. You can cook things a lot faster if you do 4 meals all in one at one time, rather than having to cook one meal, start it, and then finish it, clean it up, and then the next day you start it, have to cook it, and finish it up, clean the dishes. If you can do that all at once, it's going to save you quite a bit of time, and then you'll also just have that food right on hand. You just have to put it in the microwave. And if you have planned healthy meals throughout the week and you cook them all at once, then you're going to eat those healthy meals. You have them ready to go, so you don't necessarily have to rely on eating out or sticking a frozen pizza in the oven or whatever. Not to knock the frozen pizza, because that is a good option every once in a while. You just don't want to be doing that all the time. So that's a great way to do your food planning process. Not that you have to do it that way, but it works out for a lot of people to get several meals cooked all at once. So then that cooking throughout the week doesn't necessarily have to happen as frequently. Finally, the benefits of meal planning. We've talked about a lot of them already, but I just want to go through the list, and there might be some new ones on this list that we haven't mentioned at all. So portion control. A lot of times, if you're meal planning, and if you're putting it in those containers, you can decide how much food goes in that container, and then if that's your meal for that day, you take it to work, or you eat it for your dinner when you get home, whatever the case may be. That's how much you're going to eat. Also, it saves time. We talked about that. If you cook lots of meals at once, the cooking process takes less time, saves money. So if you only get the food that you plan to eat, you're not buying extra stuff at the store. You know what you need to make the meals, and you're not going to buy stuff that's just going to sit on the shelf forever and ever and never get used. It reduces food waste. So that's similar. Like, you can utilize all the food that you make, especially if you're putting them in containers, and you're eating them throughout the week. Not to say that you can't have something that sits in the fridge so long that it goes bad and then you can't eat it. But in general, meal planning will help you reduce food waste, reduces cooking time. That goes along with saving time. More variety. So you might get kind of stuck in a rut if you're just trying to come up with meals off the top of your head and you're like, oh, this sounds good, this is something we do all the time, let's have that. But if you're meal planning, that'll make it easier for you to be like, oh, let's try something new, and then mix it up so you're not always eating the same thing. Healthier foods. A lot of times when you make a plan, people have the idea of eating healthy. We talked about that a little bit already. So you're probably going to eat healthier foods if you have a plan. Avoid food impulses. That goes back to sticking to the list. So if you stay to your list and you only put healthy things or 90% healthy things on your list, then you won't have those impulse buys of those sugary or sweet treats or whatever it happens to be. And then you'll probably eat out less. So a lot of times the reason people eat out is just because it's easier. I mean, obviously the food a lot of times tastes good as well, but you don't have to worry about the dishes, making the meal, all that. So you can kind of simplify that process by having a meal plan and cooking meals ahead of time. So these are some good benefits of doing the meal planning process. Not that this is something that's going to work for everyone, as far as like cooking multiple meals at once, but I think at least the beginning steps where you're talking about planning your meals for the week, making a list when you go to the store, I think that's something that most everyone could benefit from. And some people would want to take it a step farther and make those meals in advance so that would just be ready to go in the fridge, and that could help out in a lot of ways. It can save you a lot of time, money, eat healthier. There's lots of benefits to meal planning. So I hope everyone comes away from this presentation and will use some of these tips about meal planning, and it'll help them in the process of saving time and just having a better system for the food that you make each and every day. Thanks. Have a great day.